Good evening. I'm John Flannery, and I'm kind of the chairman of the board of the Dirt Road Gang, and I'm doing a sit and talk because of the rain and because of other chores and responsibilities I had today, including not getting wet, I suppose. This is a time of year in which, for many, myself included, it's a time to take a step back. It's a time to be with family, to remember past good and bad times as well. And it's a time for resolutions going forward. To borrow from Bush, and I don't know that he meant it, he talked about a kinder, gentler nation. We haven't had that for some time. And since Trump's come on the stage, he's been a catalyst for dissension and hurt and a lack of decorum and leadership and decency, to borrow a word from President Biden when asked to compare Trump with the late President Jimmy Carter, who died. So what are we going to do? Well, I'll be short and sweet because I'm not going to add to the things that people say, the homilies that repeat year after year what they have to say. When we look back on the last year, it should only inform us of what we need to do in the next year, perhaps. And yes, it's good to celebrate the good times, the good things that happened, the accomplishments one made. But I think it was Sartre who said, you are only what you have done. You are not hypothetically anything. We judge you by what you do and how you act. And we're at a juncture in which, among the myths and metaphors that we use to get through life, time is a metaphor. I mean, when it can be 2025 in Australia or New Zealand and it's 2024 in New York, you can't say it's a hard and fast object. When we say we can change the, daylight savings time, then it's not a real thing. But we use the time as a scale to compare to our motion. And Seneca, whom I'm fond of repeating, and I apologize for it, said it's not that life is too short, it's that we waste too much of it. So what are we going to do going forward that is not a waste, is a contribution, makes a difference? Well, in our individual lives, grabbing somebody near you and hugging them is not a bad start. Doing your job well, thinking if it's for someone else, how your labor, even though paid, is also a gift to them. It is a pride in your effort and in your work. And if you start in those places, you become a person who inspires others to act that way. We don't have enough of that. Everything is a competition. And it's not like at the end of our life, there's a prize for what circumstance you're in at that moment. What life is about, the artistry of life, is doing something with your life while here, for those you care about, but also for society generally. We don't have that attitude. It's ironic that in the opening days of this new year, former President Carter will be sitting and laying in state on about January the 9th. And so there will be a lot of talk about his values. They contrast sharply, as they did when he first ran, with what's going on now. He contrasted with Watergate. That was the thing that he was going to burn out of our system, that toxin, that lying, self-seeking attitude. And so what perfect parallel it is that in his final moments, he voted against Trump, and now he will be the image the nation considers on or about before and slightly after January the 9th. Trump can't come out well in that comparison. If we waste this metaphor time and don't think to act and react, what people fear of Trump by inaction will become the law of the day, the custom of the day, the practice of the day. We already see the creeping aspects of this. We see incompetent nominees for the most important positions in our government. We see chaos within the camp of Trump. We see chaos in the conflict between Trump's impending stewardship, strange word for him, in the White House in conjunction with what the Hill has to offer. People who get to a position as Trump has, assuming the regularity of the election, but not the truth of what was said to win the election, creates conflicts and principles that cannot be resolved. The H-1B is one of those, and I'm not going to get into those, but you see the hate and extraordinary, unfortunate, childish, hateful exchanges that accompany the discussion of an important issue. We can expect more of this. And we have to be the leveling force in our nation. So on the one hand, I think we do what's not always easy, but always important, to show care and love for those that matter to us, but also to reach out into the community and do what we can as well. I think I've mentioned before, there's a passage in the New Testament I enjoy, and I'm not religious, but there's gold in them thar hills. And this one is about, in my opinion, are people ready to receive your gift, if you will? And in this context, the Testament talks about casting your pearls before swine. They can't appreciate, they don't know what to do with it, and so forth. But the rest of the passage says, and then after they crush these pearls into the ground, and they turn on you and rent you, meaning tear you apart. There's a strong pathway, wide and long, on the Republican side to be like that, to do like that. If you don't like it, go pound sand. But it's not like we can divorce ourselves individually any more than the South could in the Civil War. This is our home. People are invested here. People are planted here in the sense of their roots go into the earth, and what they share with the community comes with that and with those other people that join in that worthy undertaking. Republicans don't have that. It's a burn and destroy attitude. So I wish you a happy new year. I hope you had a wonderful evening if you see this after the falling of the ball and time sent in New York. But keep in mind that in the days ahead, besides whatever personal resolutions you make, to include those that helps you make a difference, while some members of our nation would tear it all down and tear it apart and rent it, tear it apart in such a way as to compromise our lifestyle, our laws, our Constitution, and decorum. So those are a few of my thoughts. Look forward to seeing you in the new year. All the best. Bye-bye.